Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle Podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. We are here again for another week. Hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's well. I hope the week's treated everyone nicely. It's been a pretty, I wouldn't say big, but like I said this last week, well and truly into the footballing season, and then there's an international break coming up, which is unfortunate. So I don't know what we'll probably just do another normal episode next week. Just probably touching on some international stuff and touching on some other relevant and important things. But I hope everyone's well. I hope the week has treated everyone nicely. On my end, as you could probably tell for those watching on YouTube, a little bit more red in the face. It's not because I'm like sweating or blushing. Sunburn. Somehow, in the start of September, I got sunburnt. And not only did I get sunburnt, I've also got crippling hay fever as well. So, what I thought last week was what I thought last week was just a normal cold, just turned out to be hay fever, and I just didn't know that it was hay fever. So the eyes and the eye region red, as well as like the nose region a bit red. So I'm not high. I promise you, I'm not high. Although it does look like it a little bit, and I think I might be a little bit loud. I don't know. Am I just yelling a bit too much, or is this normal volume? Okay, I just adjusted it a little bit. I think I'm at a good level now. Maybe we'll just bump it up a little bit more. Yeah, we'll bump it up by one. There you go. Yeah. So I promise you, I'm not high. I'm just, yeah. That's all. I'm just hay fever and sickness and sunburnt, I should say. But yes, I'm not sick. I've recovered from whatever happened last week. But I hope everyone's well. I hope the week is treated everyone nicely, as always. Before we get into things, make sure you subscribe to the Two Foot Tackle Podcast on YouTube and and follow it on all the socials. Make sure you like the podcast as well. Notification bell so you don't miss out on any clips or anything like that. What else? So yeah, all the audio platforms as well: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Two Foot Tackle Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and Twitter, TFTPod. All the relevant links are in the description on YouTube, and there's a link in the bio of both Twitter and Instagram for all your Two Foot Tackle podcasting needs. Rolled that off the tongue nicely, didn't I? Let's crack into things, shall we? Let's not waffle for too long. Is that all the update I needed on the weekend? Yeah, that's all. Just I got sunburnt, and I got sunburnt, a bit tired. Got sunburnt, bit tired, and a bit of hay fever. That's pretty much all of pretty much wrapping up my weekend in any relevant kind of way. This focus on this camera is god awful, can I just say. Focuses on the faces behind me. There's probably a little bit of an error in hindsight getting faces behind me, because the camera picks up on the faces and focuses on the faces, when really it should focus on my face, because mine's human, and that's anyways. But yeah, that's what we're going to touch on today. We have a pretty big show. Pretty big episode. We're just going to do a Premier League wrap up. I want to, in a way to broaden my talking points, I reckon we just do Premier League wrap up at the start of every podcast. Then we can really kick into the main talking points. Socceroos squad has been announced for the game against Mexico on the weekend, so we'll touch on that for the Australians watching. I want to speak on Jude Bellingham, because that boy's living a movie right now. I'll tell you that for free. And I want to speak on Mason Greenwood. For fuck's sake. Jadon Sancho, and then the Champions League draw to finish things up before we wrap things up. So yeah, let's kick things off. Let's start with the Premier League wrap up. Let's go. Let's speak on the Premier League. So about a lot of Premier League games have happening. I say a lot of Premier League games have happening. All the Premier League games have happened. There's no game that's happening post this game or post this podcast has come out. So the full Premier League weekend has wrapped up. It started on Friday night UK time, Saturday morning Australia time. Luton losing to West Ham 2-1. A couple of interesting storylines. Obviously, West Ham find themselves in the top four at the end of this weekend, which is quite surprising considering their early part of the fixture. Their early fixtures were pretty tough. Bournemouth and Luton, you'd expect them to get results out of, but they also had Chelsea and Brighton, which they both picked up 2-3-1 wins, which, I mean, fair play to them, right? Yeah, but I think obviously Luton's first home game of the season. Obviously, that's going to be a massive talking point throughout the whole year. Kenilworth Road, if any teams can upset them, or if Luton can upset any teams at home, and all that good stuff. Of course, they were actually still doing kind of maintenance to the ground whilst the players were whilst the players were playing and stuff, and whilst the fans were coming out. So I guess that goes to show just how much of a state that ground is in terms of for Premier League quality, I should say. But West Ham got a 2-1 win. Full credit to them. They played. They just did what they had to do. Obviously, Luton scored that goal late on. So I don't know how many minutes about a time there were. There was two. Yeah, there was five minutes about a time after the goal. So. Yeah, Luton probably could have had a couple more chances, but yeah, West Ham probably did enough to win that game, so can't really blame them in that respect. And they find themselves in the top four after 4 games. So yeah, interesting. I don't know what their next run is like. They've got City at home though, potential for an upset there. They've got Liverpool away, and then they've got Sheffield United at home, and then Newcastle away. So that's Newcastle at home. So that's the next 4, and then they've got 3 cup games in between. They've got Europa League game against Bakar Topola, goodness gracious, they are based in, I want to say Hungary, Serbia. So yeah, they host the Europa League game on a Friday morning Australia time. They go away to Lincoln in the first round of the Carabao Cup, and then they verse Freiburg away from home in the Europa League. So that's probably going to be a tough game for them. Freiburg were a very good side last year, so hopefully for their sake they can carry that forward. But yeah, good result by West Ham to start things off. Good start of the season. Moving on to the next game, Sheffield United versus Everton. We're not speaking about that game. That game was boring, and I actually didn't watch it. So I was out Saturday night, so I really haven't seen a lot of these whole Saturday games. But what I do want to speak about, let's speak on the good news first. And the good news is Ange, right? The good news is Ange Postecoglou doing the business again. 3 or 5-2 victory. Obviously, he suffered his first defeat as Tottenham boss early on in the week, obviously losing the cup game to Fulham it was on penalties. I saw a lot of Tottenham supporters blaming Ange for that result. I think it's one of those things where he experimented with the team. It was a cup game. It's his first cup game, so he obviously is going to be weird. It's going to be different to how he's used to managing cup games, especially in England, where the cups are taken a little bit differently to how they are in other leagues. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see the reaction post that game. A lot of people blaming Ange for substitutions and squad lineups and the way he approached the game. So it was going to be interesting to see how they responded, and they responded really well. 5-2 win. They weren't actually 1-0 down, but then they came back. They went 5-1 ahead just after the hour mark. Son with a hat trick. Obviously Burnley scored pretty late on. It was the 94th minute. So the most consolation of consolation goals from Josh Brownhill. But yes, with no Richarlison up front, they went with Son, Solomon, Kulusevski and Maddison. That's probably their most dynamic front three, I think, that you can get, because Son has the ability to play off the left as well, which is probably his more natural position, as well as being able to play up front. So he has that ability to just interchange, a little bit like Marcus Rashford. Being able to get into those half spaces, but then break you through with those diagonal runs into the box, allowing for that overlapping and underlapping runs from Kulusevski and Solomon. Maddison has become an absolute player, can I just say? I think Ange mentioned that in his press conference when he got asked about him. He was shocked that they were able to get him for only 40 million, and I'm actually surprised as well. I know relegation tax is a thing, but James Maddison is a player, man. He's very, very good. He could prove to be one of the signings of the window if Tottenham can carry on their form, that what they're showing in the league, and they can probably make top 4. He will 100% be a crucial part in whatever Spurs do this season, because he just has his freedom to play in that number 10 role, almost like the modern day number 10, where he has the ability to drop deep and pick up the ball, but also can break in almost as like that shadow striker, and breaking and use those third man runs to find space to the box and to impact on the score sheet. Scored a goal on the weekend. I think that's his third or fourth goal contribution in 4 games. Yeah, 4th goal contribution in 4 Premier League games. 2 goals, 2 assists. He's finding form really early on, and I don't know if this says a lot about Maddison or if it says a lot about Ange, or maybe a little bit of both. But they seem to be clicking, and I think a lot of people who knew Ange's system, including myself, and knew a lot more of Maddison. I have a mate who's a Leicester supporter, and he said that Maddison will thrive under Ange. Just because of the way the player and the manager both operate, it just works. So they're going to be good, Tottenham, unfortunately. But what can you say? Both fullbacks getting an assist, which is probably a very stereotypical Ange Postecoglou kind of game with both fullbacks bombing on and making an impact in the final third. Burnley having a struggle early part of the season. One win and 3 losses. Can't really blame them. They have had it. Oh no, sorry, 3 losses, 1 win. Then the 1 was in the cup. My apologies, but their run has been pretty tough. You got City at home, tough. Villa at home, tough, and then Tottenham at home, tough. So I know they've had 3 home games, but all pretty tough games. All pretty tough games. Villa have obviously been fantastic this season, probably barring their game against Liverpool, which we'll touch on a little bit later. And obviously Tottenham as well are great, and City, we all know City what they can do. So yeah, they have a pretty good run from here on in. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they've got Forest, they've got United, which will be tough, but then they've got Newcastle. Oh, sorry. So their run is actually not that easy. Their next 5 Prem games are Forest, United, Newcastle, Chelsea, Brentford. That's a tough 5 games. Very tough 5 games. So I guess we just have to wait and see what comes of that when it happens. I predict them to finish 10th. I don't know if that's going to come true now. I thought they might be able to pick up a point from their first 3 games. Just somewhere, maybe against Villa was probably where I was looking at for that point. But I think they'll come good. Baptism of fire early on, but I think they'll come good eventually. So yeah, that was that game. But Ange doing his shtick. Doing his shit? No, doing his shtick. That's what it is, doing his stuff. A man who's not doing his stuff, however, is Mauricio Pochettino. Now, let's speak on Chelsea, shall we? Let's speak on Chelsea. Oh boy. Goodness gracious me. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I predicted Chelsea to finish 6th. That's not because I don't rate the squad. It's not because I don't rate the manager. It's just because I think it's going to take time to gel. And you would look at this opening month of the season and be like, yep, this is what it means. This is a team that has taken time to gel. But you don't lose 1-0 at home to Forest. You can't lose 1-0 at home to Forest. It was, like I said, I was out Saturday night, so I watched the second half when I got home. It just was just poor, really poor. Obviously, the defensive structure to let Anthony Elanga throw and goal there is just abysmal. It's awful. And we just couldn't score. Nicholas Jackson, golden chance. How he doesn't score that is beyond me. Jesus, he has to score that. And he's been good. He's been really good for us, I think, in the opening part of the season. We haven't had a striker like him since Diego Costa. The ability for someone who's physically capable. He's like a mixture between... He's a mix between Drogba and Diego Costa, I think. Maybe a little bit quicker and a little bit more... I wouldn't say technical, but a little bit more languid than either of those 2 players. Obviously, Drogba and Costa were far more... were brutes of number 9s, right? And they've been our best 2 number 9s in the Premier League era, realistically, since we started winning in 2005. We've only had 2 good strikers. We've had Torres, he's been okay. He was average. Morata was good for about 4 months. Higuain, shit. Havertz, not great. Werner, not great. Crespo, okay. Crespo was okay. Shevchenko, terrible. These type of players. Anyways, I digress. But Jackson is showing something. He's showing something. Maybe a little bit like Tammy Abraham. I think he's a mixture between Tammy's physical attributes, quite tall, a little bit lanky, but he has the technical ability and the ability to run past players, to take on a man, and to use his good dribbling ability and his good agility to get past players. So yeah, hopefully he can really hit the ground running. He scored his first Premier League goal the other week, so he's off the mark in that respect. Scored against Luton, scored the 3rd goal against Luton. So he's on the mark, which is much needed. Obviously, it's one of those things where you need to get off the mark early, just so you're not where's that goal coming from? A bit like Timo Werner, just where's that goal coming from? But no, he was good. He was good. Poor miss though. Poor miss. Apart from that, he was pretty good. Sterling, I thought, was okay. Cole Palmer coming in was good. I thought, driving forward and taking on players and really being a spark. But apart from that, just poor. Caicedo was okay. I thought Enzo Fernandez was great as usual. I think that's not really a surprise. I think our back three were pretty good. Back four even were pretty good for the most part, barring obviously the goal. I think they held up quite well. What else? My lacklustre on the right hand side was pretty good, but yeah, it's just like, like we have so many attacking players. Like we've got Palmer, Sterling. Like who started the game? Sterling, Jackson, and Chilwell were basically our three attackers because of the way we moved to a 4, and then Gusto was our 4 attackers essentially. With that flat three of Gallagher, Caicedo and Enzo. And then off the bench you got Palmer, Modric, Mudryk, and then obviously Chukwuemeka has been injured, which is a bit unfortunate because he was good. He would be needed as well. But yeah, it's just not clicking right now, which is very disappointing. But I feel confident that it will eventually start to come together and we will start to pick up results. I think our run from here on is pretty good. You've got Bournemouth, Villa, Fulham, Burnley. They're our next 4. 3 wins from those minimum. I know Villa's going to be tough. It's at home, which helps us. But yeah, 3 wins from that minimum. If we can pick up at least 9 points from those 4 games, back on track. Get the momentum going. Hopefully, get some players back. I'm not too sure where Chukwuemeka's slated to return, but he was good in the early part of the year when he played. So, get some players back. Hopefully, get some more mileage in the legs of like some Mudryk and Modric. Try to get them into the games a little bit more. Try to start them, and hopefully we can kick on. But he was poor, very poor, and very annoying. There's that. Moving on to a team that didn't play poorly and got the job done, and that's City. Can we speak on Erling Haaland just briefly? Can we speak on Erling Haaland just briefly? Because that man is a joke. Pardon me. Erling Haaland is an actual joke. A joke of a footballer. It is something like 50... I can't believe I'm about to say this. He's an absolute joke of a footballer. Like an absolute joke of a footballer. 50 Premier League goals in 39 Premier League games. Like that is like just cracked. Like cracked. He's up there already with one of the best Premier League strikers ever. Like I don't care. He's so like the way he took that 3rd goal on the weekend, where it just comes across the box, first time left foot, bottom corner at 1,000,000 miles an hour, just like it's nothing. Like one of the most ruthless finishes the game has ever seen. If City sign him onto a long-term deal, he could 100% be the best striker the league has ever seen. Arguably the best player the league has ever seen. He, maybe Ballon d'Or is a little bit too far, just because he didn't really do anything on the international stage, but then again, he did win the treble. So, if he keeps up this goal-scoring form, could he win the Ballon d'Or? Like, genuinely, could he win the Ballon d'Or? I wouldn't be surprised. Genuinely wouldn't be surprised. Maybe there's other players ahead of him, but he's definitely going to be in the conversation. Definitely will be in the conversation. He's so good. Like, it's actually a little bit of a joke how good he is. Like, it's just absurd. Just ridiculous. Like, I have never seen anything like this. I was born in 2004 and I started really watching the Prem from about 2013 onwards, right? I've never seen anything like this. Blows a lot of players out of the water. A lot. It's genuinely unfair that he's at Man City. Like, it's genuinely unfair. Because if he was at a team that was okay without being great, then sure, it would be good to watch. But the fact that he's at City, scoring 100 goals a year, it seems like, is just really not fair. It's just really not fair to the rest of the league. But he's cracked. He's so good. Another player that scored a hat-trick, Evan Ferguson. Once again, where and how has this guy just spawned in Brighton's team? I know it's not like that because like Evan Ferguson's been on the radar for a lot of people for a while. He's shown that he's a talent, right, especially at youth level. But he's just come onto the scene in the last couple of months and it's just he has the potential to blow the league wide open. Hat-trick on the weekend, 4 Premier League goals in his first 4 games of the season, and yeah, just like exceptional. Scored 6 goals last season from 10 starts and 16 appearances. So he's not a mug and he's not someone who that just spawned from nowhere. He's come through He's not come through their academy, but he got there quite young. Got there in the off season of 2021, so he's been there a couple of years and has been a player that has shown a lot, especially at youth level. Yeah, just really, really exciting times for Brighton because they finally got a striker that can finish. Like, Brighton could be... Like, this is the thing with Brighton, right? This is the thing with Brighton. Brighton have always been a team... Brighton have always been a team that if they got that striker that could finish, it's game over. Like, they had Molpai couldn't finish, Welbeck couldn't finish, Undav couldn't finish, and they just needed that final piece of the puzzle, a player who can just put the ball in the back of the net, and they were going to be deadly. And now they've got one, and not only have they got one, they've got one that I reckon will be there for quite a while. He is a baller. Ferguson is a baller. I really hope he stays with Ireland, just on a side note, because I really don't want him to go to England, because I really hope he stays Irish and represents Ireland. He's represented them at youth level quite a few times. So I don't think there's going to be any change of allegiance there, but he is a talent. Like, he is so good, has so many attributes that makes him so dangerous in so many areas, and he fits Brighton's system perfectly. There's no need to change or mould or shift anything in the build-up play. You just put him at the top of that team, put him as that focal point, and he'll score you bags of goals. Genuinely, 20 goals this season, wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised in the slightest, because he's good and they're good, and it's creating for a deadly partnership. So, exciting times if you're a Brighton fan. Exciting times if you're a Brighton fan. Not so exciting times if you are a Newcastle fan. Newcastle, see, this is the thing is with Newcastle, right? And I kind of alluded to this. Apologies. I kind of alluded to this pre-season. Newcastle were always going to have a form slump. Because you cannot maintain the level that they were at last year with not really adding a whole lot to your squad. They added, but they didn't add a bunch. Plus Champions League football, plus now the mentality shift from the rest of the league that they are now good and they're going to be treated far more seriously. There was always going to be a natural decline in Newcastle. Their start of the season has been poor. Granted, their run has been horrendous. It's been a baptism of fire, to say the least. But I don't think it's a panic stations for Newcastle. How must get sacked, change the whole team. I think it will just come. I think it will just slowly. They'll start to get their form ticking again. They'll start to play a bit more fluid football. And once they get into the full swing of the season, once they get used to the rigors of Champions League football and Cup football and League football all in one, I think they'll start to come good. I just think their start of the season, with the mentality shift from the rest of the league, has just caused this kind of storm, like this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's caused this storm of like. It's a perfect storm, I should say. It's just caused this perfect storm of just everything has gone wrong, and I don't think everything will continue to go wrong. I think eventually it will change. Eventually, the fortunes will eventually change for Newcastle. I'm not too worried about that, and I'm not too worried for them because it won't last. This almost certainly won't last. So I'm not too worried about them. It's just quite interesting to see the reaction from a lot of Newcastle fans and a lot of Premier League fans who are like, they were really good last year and now they're not as good, so maybe something's wrong. I don't think anything's wrong. I think it's just one of those things. I think it's just one of those things where eventually it will come good. I think. I don't see any issues. But yeah, it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those. It can be one of those wait and see type things. I feel. Definitely going to be one of those wait and see type things with Newcastle because now their run's pretty good. Speaking about runs, quite a lot this episode, but now their run's quite good. Brentford winnable, Sheffield United winnable, Burnley winnable, West Ham, Palace, Wolves, all winnable games. So they should start to get some points on the board, start ticking over, and eventually they should come good. Let's speak on Arsenal United briefly before we move on to the main couple of talking points in this podcast. Arsenal versus United, hey? What an interesting and weird game. It was just obviously Arsenal dominated, I think as expected. United probably a little bit far more defensive than what a lot of people thought they would be. Obviously, with Deleuze playing on that left-hand side, with that midfield three, Casemiro, Bruno and Eriksen, not bad. Haaland made his, I think that's how you pronounce his name anyway, Haaland made his first appearance coming off the bench. He was crucial for that disallowed goal with Garnacho at the end, which, is it offside? Look, I've spoken about VAR for years. I think it's offside but it's ruining the game. It's ruining the game. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's offside, but in the same thing, it's like, is it offside? Is Garnacho gaining an advantage from being in that position? No. He could be in an onside position and still score, because that's just how it works. That's just how football works. It's not. It's by the letter of the law, it's offside. By morals, it's not. So it's one of those things. But yeah, Haaland comes off the bench and made an impact, especially in that goal. Obviously, dropping deep, drawing the defenders out, allowing the run from Garnacho in behind. Arsenal dominated the game. Obviously, Rashford's early goal was cancelled out very quickly by Odegaard. Two very well taken strikes. The Rice goal at the end, yeah, it's one of those things, hey, where it's just scramble in the box. You just have to get a toe on it. You just have to smash it towards the goal, and hopefully it just scrambles in. He's endeared himself. That's the moment that he's now an Arsenal player, if that makes sense. That is Rice's moment. That is like, okay, I've won you a game. I've scored the winner at home against United earlier on in the season. He's like an Arsenal player now. That's the moment that he needed to cement himself amongst the Arsenal faithful. So happy for him. He's a good player. Played well again in that holding midfield position. Obviously, no Partey playing on the right hand side like he has been in the last couple of weeks. They did go with Ben White, obviously naturally the natural replacement for him, and they went back to a far more familiar back six or back five, I should say, with Rice playing the Partey role of last year. Havertz stinker again. I mentioned it last week. I'm not going to go on about it again, but they've fallen into the Kai Havertz trap. They have fallen into the Kai Havertz trap, and as a Chelsea supporter, I know about that trap. So, it's one of those things. I'm not going to say I told you. I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so, but I told you so. But apart from that, while Arsenal players played very well, I thought, from what I saw of the game in the rest I did before. Obviously, I didn't. It was at 1:30 in the morning. I didn't watch all of it. I watched the first half. A couple of penalty shouts as well. Happy to see both of those not given. In my mind, I think my first reaction, maybe for the Havertz one, my first reaction was no. No, sorry, for that my first reaction to the Havertz one was maybe, but my reaction to the other one was no. And I'm happy that both of those not stood. Yeah, whatever. So United, poor. Surprisingly poor. I thought they would have come out and be a little bit more, try catch it, try be a little bit more advanced, a little bit more progressive. But they really did sit back and try to play on the counter. They didn't really get Rashford into the game that much, except for the goal, and that goal came from a misplaced pass from Kai Havertz. I'm pretty sure it was, or like a dodgy pass from one of Arsenal's midfielders. So, it wasn't like Rashford tore the game apart and was getting in behind and was really troubling that Arsenal defence. I don't really think. We started Martial up front. He's very hit and miss for me. I went with Anthony on the other side. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, Anthony on the other side was average, and it's been like the team is a little bit carried by Bruno and Rashford. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, what's going on? Like it's just them two, and there's nothing else, which is quite concerning. Once Haaland starts to get more involved, and once Haaland starts to start more games, I think he's going to be very good for them. I mean, he showed in that goal, or in that disallowed goal, his ability to drop deep, his game awareness to drop deep, drag the defenders out, and get those balls in behind, or allow the space in behind to get the balls to the cutters. Will be very interesting, especially Rashford. I feel like Rashford's going to benefit a lot from Haaland's existence, because he can both drop deep, he can push up, so he can he can use his pace and use his ability to push the defenders up to create space in that half space for Rashford to cut in, but then he can also push the defenders forward and create space over the top. So he's a very dynamic and very fluid striker that will allow Rashford a lot of space in a couple of areas where he's very dangerous, and as well naturally defenders being drawn to Haaland will allow space for Anthony on that right hand side, and Bruno is a very good dictator, especially from that like middle third and more like advanced positions. Get those balls in behind, get those balls into the half space. So I think once Haaland starts to play a little bit more, he can really be the key to unlocking United in an offensive way, because they were very poor in the attacking third, I thought. Defensively they were quite solid. They didn't really concede too many clean cut chances. Obviously the goal from Odegaard was well taken. That's probably one of the few times where they were genuinely carved up throughout the game. I'm not going to count the last goal because it's just a scramble. It's like a last ditch effort and you just get caught on the counter. Good pass from Vieira to Jesus, who took the goal quite well. Obviously, the Rice winner just came from a corner, so you can't really take a lot from that. But I thought, weird game from United, good game from Arsenal. They needed that just to get back on track after a couple of disappointing performances. Disappointing performance to start the season, and obviously disappointing result against Fulham. So they're back on track with a good win. Hopefully, they could kick off from here, I think, for their sake. But that is all for the Premier League kind of... that is all for the Premier League kind of thing, if that makes sense, aspect of the show, of the podcast. Let's move on to, as the throat's getting a little bit sore, so I'm going to quickly pause, record, throat's a little bit sore, and then we'll come back for the second portion of this podcast, which, once again, no break for everyone else, just a break for me, so bear with. All right, let's speak on the Socceroos squad. So, like I said, international break coming up over the weekend, over the coming weekend, and Australia will travel to, I think we're going to America to versus Mexico. Oh well, it's one of those things. I guess it's actually not a bad warm up. Very, very early warm up for the World Cup, but a warm up for the World Cup nonetheless. It's AT&T Stadium in Dallas, so hopefully there's a big crowd there, get the boys some exposure. But the squad was announced. Obviously, Graham Arnold was picked his 26 man or 23 man. I think it might be 23 man. 23 man squad for the singular friendly, which is a bit annoying because if you're traveling all the way to the US, you'd hope it'd be more than one friendly. But Mexico are a good team, or a team that are able to play expensive football, so it's going to be a good test, especially for our kind of to show our ability to not heavily rely on the counter attack. Like if we can turn up against Mexico and start playing football and start like dominating, not dominating, but having the ability to control possession in the middle third and creating chances that aren't on the counter attack, I think that's going to be good for us. But our next two currently scheduled games against Mexico and England. So obviously that England game will be played in October. So those two games will be a good litmus test for us, I feel. But let's get into the squad. Going in alphabetical order: Nathaniel Atkinson, Keanu Bacchus, Aziz Beich, Martin Boyle, Cam Burgess, Alessandro Siratas? No. I butchered that. I'll come back to that because I should get that right. As a Greek speaker, an Italian name should be okay. Nick D'Agostino, Milos Degenek, Cam Devlin, Mitch Duke, Dennis Genro, Tom Glover, Jackson Irvine, Matt Leckie, Ashley Maynard Brewer? Yeah, Brewer. I think that's how you pronounce that. Making his debut in the squad. Well, he hasn't had a cap, so I'm pretty sure this is his debut in the squad as well. Riley McGree, Conor Metcalf, Aidan O'Neill, Kai Rouse, Matt Ryan, Sammy Silvera. Very interested to see how he goes because he's been playing well for Middlesbrough, I'm pretty sure. Harry Suter, Ryan Schrain. Harry Suter's an interesting one. Because he's been dropped completely. Like he was dropped completely from the squad against Leicester, or for Leicester, I should say, in their game on the weekend. So that's disappointing. That's very like for a player who's had such high hopes, especially from a lot of Australians, it's very disappointing, I think. We obviously all know how well he played in the World Cup, and when he got signed to Leicester, there was a lot of high hopes, like building that kind of centre, like the potential for him to build that centre back partnership with Rouse, with Sakati, with various different players who could break through and become very good centre halves for Australia. He was like the centre point of that kind of our future. Like he was going to be the captain. He was going to be the focal point, especially in that back 4 or 5 or whatever. But yeah, disappointing that he got dropped from Leicester's squad on the weekend hopefully he can find some form and really become a good player for the national team, because I think he's good. I think he's good. I think he can become a very, very solid player. Definitely a Premier League level, in my opinion. Definitely Premier League level. But apart from that, the squad, I'm happy with the squad. We're giving some more players a chance. Giving more players a chance. Obviously there's no Hrustic in that team, so obviously I don't know if that's injury based or if that's form based or if that's just Arnie just mixing up the squad. But yeah, the likes of D'Agostino, Silvera. I'm happy Adam O'Neill made it. I'm happy with our midfield mix for the team, for the current players that we've got. Sakardi as well. Burgess, I think is deserved. Jordi Boss, very unfortunate that he got injured because he definitely would have featured. But if I was to go with a lineup, I'd want Glover to start, but he'll probably start Ryan, but I wouldn't mind seeing Glover start. I think we'll go with Atkinson, a right back. Obviously, there's no Frank Karacic as well, which I've just noticed. So I reckon you go Atkinson, a right back. You play Aziz at left back. I think... but Ryan Strain's been playing very well, I think, in Scotland from memory. So I think you might want to reward him. Maybe you can sub him on at halftime. But I feel like you have to just go with Souter and Rouse. I think when you're looking at a spine of a team, you want to try and get as much continuity as possible. And because we don't have that many friendlies, you could play Sakardi, but I don't want him to kind of... I don't want to upset the apple cart too much, especially when it comes to crucial positions like centre-back. So I will go with Souter and Rouse, get that partnership up, make sure just get the legs ticking over in terms of playing with each other and understanding each other's, like, the way that each other play football and build that connection up. I would go with a midfield four. I'd play a 4-4-2. So I'd go with... I think Irvine has to start. I would actually start Irvine and Bacchus. I'd start Irvine and Bacchus. I'd start Irvine and Bacchus. I would play Riley McGray on the left. Yeah, Irvine and Bacchus in the middle. McGray off the left. He can also come in and play as that inverted winger in a sense. On the right, I'd play Lecky. And then up front, I wouldn't play Boyle, actually. Yeah, I'd play Lecky on the right. I wouldn't mind seeing Daggers and Silvera as that kind of striker false nine would be good. I feel like he will start Duke. And if he starts Duke, I wouldn't mind seeing Sammy Silvera start as that kind of second striker. Is it his natural position? Maybe not, depending on who you ask. But I feel like he could thrive in that role. Probably. I think he's been playing out wide for Middlesbrough more often than not, if I recall correctly. Silvera. Just want to double check that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see what Arnie does. Yeah, in his last game that he played off the left, off the right. Sorry. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Silvera in that 10 though, in that kind of second striker. Probably not his natural position, but I feel like using his pace, using his ability to get past the man and to drive us forward. I feel like he definitely has the ability to pick up the ball deep and drive forward. And I feel like that's something that we've lacked. Probably McGree can do that. Lecky can do that. Goodwin can do that. He's not in the squad. Boyle's a little bit more of a final third operator. He's probably not going to pick up the ball and drive out of defence. He's probably going to be there lurking in and around the 18-yard box, getting on the end of moves rather than starting them. But I'm happy with our squad. I would have much preferred 2 games, because then you can really get a look at Sakati, you can really get a look at Burgess, you can really get a good look at Glover or Ryan or the third choice keeper if you want. You could probably get a full 90 minutes into Silvera, into D'Agostino, into Aidan O'Neill. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Arnie does. I expect to see big changes at halftime. I expect to see 7 or 8 changes at halftime, just to see what players can offer. If I was to pick players to want to get 90 minutes, I want to see Silvera get 90. I really do want to see Silvera get 90. I want to see Silvera. I want to see Bacchus get 90. I want to see McGree get 90, and Souter. They're the 4 players that I would want to get full 90 minutes. Then you can fully refresh the squad. You probably obviously give you maybe do give 90 to Aziz, I don't know. But yeah, they're the 4 players I would really want to see 90 minutes on. Daggers as well. I don't know if I mentioned Daggers. I don't think I did. But yeah, I'd love to see Daggers get some solid minutes as well because he's been playing well for Viking. In hindsight, he would have been very valuable in the World Cup squad because we lacked that kind of true dynamic forward because we went with the Duke and then we subbed McLaren on. Taggart didn't really get a look in. That dynamism from D'Agostino would have been handy in Qatar. But I feel like if he can carry on his form that he's showing in Norway, if he can make an appearance and score in this friendly, if he can make an appearance and score or perform well against England in October, I feel like that will really set him well for the Asian Cup. And that Asian Cup starts in January, doesn't it? Is it January or late Feb? Late January, early Feb. It starts 13th of Jan. Lovely. Yeah, 13th of Jan. And then obviously India, Syria, and Uzbekistan in our group, which is pretty tough, but doable, and I'm sure I'll cover that in more detail when it comes to it. We've got time, got a couple of months. So yeah, I'm happy with our squad. Obviously the glaring omissions are the likes of, not glaring, but like whether it's injury based or just giving players a taste of football. So obviously no Hrustic and the like, but happy with the squad. Definitely happy with what Graham Arnold has done with it. So yeah, there's that. Let's move on to what are we moving on to? Yeah, let's move on to let's touch on Jude Bellingham. Let's touch on Jude. Jude Bellingham is obviously scoring a goal. Jude Bellingham is literally living a movie. Jude Bellingham is literally living a movie, and it's so cool to see. Just need to write down some notes for me for editing Ari. Jude Bellingham is literally living a movie, literally living a movie. Scored the winner in the 90th minute in the Bernabeu on the weekend. Like he's literally living goal. Like he's literally living Santiago Muniz's life. Like it's insane. Not only is he good, not only is he objectively a fucking baller, he's so good. He's literally living the dream, literally living a movie. And if his trajectory is maintained, he can so easily win the Ballon d'Or. I'm not saying it's going to be this year, but he is so capable of winning a Ballon d'Or. And I think the move to Real Madrid works. I think it works. I was skeptical. When the move was announced, but just seeing how well he looks and how good he looks just in that Real Madrid kit, it's something so small, but I just think it works. That works. The aesthetic of it all works, and I think by all accounts, the fans have warmed to him, which is major, especially for Real Madrid fans, right? It takes a lot for players to warm to Real Madrid fans. So I think it's going to be one of those things where if he can just carry on doing what he's doing, the fans are going to adore him. And once the fans adore you, that's a big step in becoming a Real Madrid legend. Obviously, he's the first English Real Madrid player since Steve McManaman, I think. He might have been, or him or Michael Owen. I can't remember who was before or who was after. But yeah, he's one of very few English Real Madrid players. And he's already, he's literally living a movie, man. He's literally living Santiago Muniz's dream, or his life even. Literally straight out of goal. It's so cool to see. That vision when he's grabbing the top, when he's grabbing the jumper and the fans are going mental in that 4K La Liga, kind of, in that camera. So cool. And, He's 20 years old. He's 20 years old. He's a kid from Birmingham doing this for Real Madrid. Insane. Absolutely insane. We just want to touch on that briefly. Let's finish things up. Let's speak on Greenwood briefly. I'm not going to touch on it. I'm not going to touch on it for too long because I don't want to give this fucking sack of shit any more airtime than he needs to. But Spanish football... Spanish football has had the worst couple of days in the history of any footballing organisation ever. Not only has the Spanish FA saga with the women's team happening, not only has the saga with the women's team just got exploded and has become a stupidly worldwide issue that really should have been resolved quickly, and because of inherent and systematic sexism and misogyny, it isn't being resolved. But now Spanish club Getafe have hired or have acquired the services of Mason Greenwood for a year. It's just shocking. Like, it's just fucking abysmal. Like, it has to be the worst PR signing of all time. Of all time. I hope Getafe go down, and I hope they don't win a game for the rest of the season. I hope the club goes bankrupt. Genuinely. Like, maybe not that far, but like, how can you do that? How can you do that? Especially with what's happening with your women's team. Like, it's just abysmal. Like, it sucks so bad. Like, it sucks so bad. Yeah, I'm not going to speak about it anymore because I don't want to give it any more airtime. I really don't want to give it any more airtime because it's just awful. It's just awful. Let's finish things up and let's speak on the Champions League draw. Obviously, Champions League draw was announced, so let's just rattle through the clubs quickly before we wrap up and let's give predictions on who's going to go through. So Group A, Bayern, United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. I think Bayern and United should go through in that one. Group C, Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. Napoli and Real Madrid should go through, but look out for Union. I think Union Berlin could cause some shocks. I wouldn't be surprised if they upset the apple cart in Group... Well, that's actually Group C, so let me backtrack to Group B. But yeah, that's Group C. Group B, Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens, or Lons, or whatever. Arsenal and Sevilla should go through. PSV, dark horse in that one. But yeah, Arsenal, Sevilla should go through. Yeah, Group C, Real Madrid, Napoli should go through, but Union, look out for them. They'll be good. Group D, Benfica, Inter, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. I think Benfica will top that group and Inter will finish second. I think that's what it'll be. Benfica, from memory, notoriously pretty good in Europe, so I think they're going to carry on that. Group E, Feyenoord, Atletico, Lazio, and Celtic. I reckon Atletico should top it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall and they kind of choke. I feel like this is one where we could say like a Lazio and Celtic go through. I feel like that I wouldn't be surprised, but Atletico should go through with Lazio in if we're speaking realistically. Group F, PSG, Dortmund, Milan, Newcastle. Genuine group of death, like a genuine proper group of death. I don't know if there's been a proper group of death in the Champions League for a while, but that group is insane. Like, that group is insane. The away trips. Imagine if you're a Newcastle fan and you look at that, you're thinking an away trip to Paris, Dortmund, and Milan. Fucking forget about it. That is insane. I can't wait to see so many Geordies packing out the San Siro. Unreal. I don't think they're going to go through. My gut tells me PSG and AC Milan. That's my gut. That's what my gut's telling me. Dortmund are good, Newcastle good. It's going to be a very competitive group. I feel like that's a group that could come down to the last match day, and that's going to be drama. I can tell you that for free. Group G, City, Leipzig, Here we go. Crvena Zvezda. Team from Croatia or Serbia, I think. Forgive me for butchering that pronunciation. And young boys from Switzerland, City and Leipzig should go through quite comfortably. And then Group H, Barca, Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk and Antwerp from Belgium. I'm pretty sure Belgium, Antwerp are from. Barca and Porto should go through. Although Shakhtar, once again, notoriously they just always hang around in Europe and they can always just upset the apple cart. But yeah, let's rattle through. Group A, Bayern and United will go through. Group B, Sevilla and Arsenal. Group C, Napoli and Real Madrid. Group D, Benfica and Inter. Group E, I'm going to go Lazio, Atletico. Group F, PSG, AC Milan. Group G, City versus Leipzig, City and Leipzig. And Group H, Barcelona and Porto. They're my in-order Champions League groups who's going through. But yes, that is all. I'm not going to do a preview because obviously international football is European qualifiers and stuff. So hopefully Australia can win their game against Mexico. Hopefully Greece can win their game. I'm pretty sure they're playing. I'm assuming they would be playing. They've got European Championship qualifiers. So yeah, hopefully they can win. And hopefully I can go to Germany next year and support Greece in their first major tournament since the 2014 World Cup. Hopefully that happens. But yeah, there you go. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of the Two for Attack podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like the podcast, notification bell, all that good stuff. Make sure you follow on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter to Foot Tackle Podcast on all those platforms. All the relevant links are in the YouTube description. All the relevant links are... I've got 2 Linktree links in the bio of Twitter and Instagram for all your 2 Foot Tackle podcasting needs. That's all, isn't it? I think that's all. Okay, so there you go. We're going to undo that. Oh, this is really good stuff. So this is me doing live editing for those watching on YouTube. I changed my OBS. For those on audio, this is going to mean nothing to you. But I changed my OBS kind of format. So it kind of stuffed up when I tried to do the outro there. But yeah, now the outro's fixed. So hopefully the outro should work now. Make sure you follow all those links and do all that good stuff. And see you guys next week. Maybe a special episode next week. I'll see if I can organise something. If not, I'll just be here chatting shit as per. Thank you for sticking around. Make sure you do all the good stuff. Like I said, enjoy your week. Speak soon. Goodbye.